Wednesday, November 29th. It kind of feels like the end of the month type of day, but we have one more trading day to go to the end of November. And I mean, it's been a tremendous November. It's been in November to remember, right? First things first, risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer there. I mean, you could at this point look at some of these numbers month to date. I mean, this has been pretty astounding. I will go through a full review tomorrow of month performance, which is going to be pretty darn stellar for some areas of the market. But it's interesting. One of the things that I was going through this earlier today, and look at TLT is up 10.8%. So even if you went long bonds, like and said, "Oh, I'm going to avoid equities," right, you're still really not complaining. That's a huge month for TLT, up 10.8%. That's a monster move. Of course, the Qs, I mean, up 11% in a month. What a move since, being dormant for a couple months there during the weaker seasonality. And then I just can't believe the ARC. Now, again, you kind of have to take this with a grain of salt because ARC, is coming from a lower place. But man, look at the rally, 33% and a third, increasing by a third of its value just in 1 month. It's amazing how quickly some of these moves can happen. The IBD 50 ETF, that's been up 11%. Big difference between growth and value. One's up 11.7%. But again, I'll get to more of the month. I'm jumping ahead till tomorrow. Because tomorrow's the right day to go over the month end performance. But today looking at some of the names that are moving again after hours, Salesforce is up 7%, Snowflake is up 6.5%. So it's more momentum for the groups that have been working. NTNX too, that name's up 6%. MDB, which I got long today. That got all the way up to 433. I actually took some profits today and after hours at 433, but you could see this is giving a charge to more of these names. So I want to talk a little bit about today's trading because I think gap ups are always a bit difficult. And there's some strategies I tend to use when we have days like this. So here's where we are, S&P, and it was tough not to get excited in the morning because you had signals. For instance, what I'm referring to, this is just the S&P futures chart on the 1 hour. I look at the multiple time frames. I can get signals from the valuers on multiple time frames, and this looked like, of course, in the pre-market session, a nice clean breakout of consolidation. But we did begin to kind of come in here, and you could chalk this up to a couple things. I mean, if people are always looking for reasons, but one of them could be it's month end, and there is some rebalancing or some selling that has to happen, right? And I think that may have been that for today. And also, you just kind of have to keep in mind that we've had a huge run. Qs similarly, these were all outside of their value area in the beginning of the day. And again, like this gave you a chance, depending on how you traded today. Go to a 5 minute here on the Qs. But depending on how you traded today, right, you were given ample opportunity to take profits. Now, what did I like? So what I tried to do today was basically get out of some of the momentum names. And if you're in momentum names and they're just that. They're trades. They're not like your long-term positions, or not even not even if they're not long-term swing trades, right? If they're just short-term trades, I thought today in the beginning of the day was a great place to get out of some of those trades, and I did just that. See if I could just bring this up here really quick. But here's my trades. I usually show the blotter in here, frequently. Obviously, TDG members get to see trades in and out, and the setups that I put together, which is all in our trades channel. Every time I get into a trade, I've got the backup for it, in terms of, what the trade setup is, what I'm watching and so forth. I don't know why this went back so far, but every name I get into, right, there's, and some names I'm browsing, right? I'm looking. right? You can't trade, you can't participate in every single setup in this market. But yeah, I mean, I got out of a couple things like Tesla, right? So we'll kind of start with that. Tesla the whole time for me was, a buy the rumor, sell the news type trade. And I was really looking for this didn't hit my target. It got very close to it. I was looking for 253 in Tesla, right? And it got close to that. And I just said, hey, this is close enough. I waited a little bit because I think in the pre-market it got darn near close to there, or at least on this bar. And then it's on the second attempt, I said, you know what, that's good enough. I don't want to be in Tesla for long term because it hasn't been a market leader. So these things that do not show are not showing relative strength or have not been a market leader. I have a really quick what's the expression that I'm looking a short leash, right, for names like that. So I got out of that one. I also got out of PayPal. I'm not in downtrend trades for very long, right? So this one worked. This was a trade that I got into just yesterday. Notice how it got rejected here. It didn't act as hasn't been acting as well as like a Square, which I haven't traded a Square either, but that name, you could kind of see, has been on a nice run. I think there might have been a little bit of call selling in that one too today. But other than that, if you look at what the Salesforce after hours, I just think that this is very impressive what's going on right now. And, it's tough, I think, when we've had a run like this over the last month. I started to say in yesterday's video that, hey, we're seeing things like a lot of high short interest, kind of the more of the bottom of the barrel type names, like, sorry to say, but GameStop and Wayfair. Usually when those things are rallying, it's kind of the tail end of the move. But it's very difficult to predict. And I try not to do that. Here's what Wayfair did today. Again, kind of a toppy looking candle for the day. Again, this one I'm just watching, didn't trade, but you just kind of use some of these things to say, hey, it may be that the rally is getting a little bit long in the tooth. So notice what we have here today in the Qs. It's a pretty ugly looking candle, but it's still holding above the 5 period moving average. Now, I can't tell you when we break this short-term trend, but again, it's often why I use the 5 period moving average, especially when we're way above the value area when we're trending like this above the value area and have a breakout. I use the 5 period moving average to tell me when momentum is starting to wane, right? Because we're in a momentum market right now. We've been in a momentum market for the last couple of weeks, right? And we've been above this 5 period moving average since the 31st. So that's why I pay attention to it. Anything that kind of gives you a little bit of a hint, right? I was also watching, obviously we didn't close above the value area, but we're also not breaking the bottom of value either. So, and just to recap, so those were two of the things that I mentioned yesterday. Was that, hey, we might be getting the rally might be getting a little bit long in the tooth, considering the junkier bottom of the barrel names are rallying. And the second thing that I mentioned was, which I just forgot my train of thought, but I think it was that, hey, we don't really have a sell signal, right? We haven't broken the value area or anything like that. So here's what it was. It's that maybe we start to see some of the names that really drive the indices, like the bigger names, right? They may be cooling down a little bit, right? And that may be the reason for this too, that you may see some digestion, because I think you're starting to see a little bit of profit taking. And I went over these charts yesterday too, but look at the candle today in Microsoft. Now that hasn't broken the 5 period moving average, but that's almost a bearish engulfing. Try to go higher. Just hung on to that 5 period moving average. Meta had a bearish engulfing, right? So again, like this to me is perfectly okay, right? Because these names have had such a run. Right. And if these names kind of chill out a little bit, that means that the overall indices are going to do the same. That's the wrong symbol. Google also had a bearish engulfing for the day. So in my opinion, that's okay. Maybe some other areas of the market really start to participate. So what else can we say about today's price action? I mean, the cyber names, I just can't believe the move in CrowdStrike after the rally that it's seen. Just a huge move, big on volume. I think if you're not in, some of these names, let them consolidate a little bit after a big run, right? ZS, another one, right? This one was up another 3% today. I don't know why Thinkorswim is giving me some issues, but there you go. A little bit of a toppy candle for the day. That's fine. Let them consolidate. Palo Alto had a huge move, right? This was one of those, if you go back a week or so, it kind of had a funky kind of earnings reaction to it. But, the breakout was intact. Again, not as clean as some of the other names that we've seen, but wow, such a move. And the name that I was looking at, and I tweeted this out last night, was MDB. I just like the tight consolidation, right? And possibly run into earnings, right? This name is going to report earnings next week. Do I plan on holding it into that next week? No, I don't. But look at the nice green candle today. Also, with the market selling off to, giving back some of the gains in the afternoon or, throughout the session, this is one name that didn't. Another name that's been strong, Cohen put a street high price target out on this name yesterday, was Datadog. So even if like you're not in some of these names, they're going to be good to kind of watch going forward, right? And I'm very surprised at how many earnings names that have been strong and have gap up names. I've compiled a list of over 80 names that I share with TTG members, and I go over some of the setups, but if you think that you've missed some of these moves, what I would refer you, and I talk about this in the beginning of every earnings season, and it's probably good to talk about it now that earnings season is kind of coming to, winding down. But this is one of the first names, right? This is the name, this is Deckers, which reported on 10/27 when the market looked horrible, right? Deckers had this big upside surprise, right? The name went up, I don't know, 20% or something like that on earnings day. And you may have, said to yourself, oh, geez, I missed it, right? I didn't play it for earnings. Look at this gap up. I can't chase it. Look at what's happened since, right? Even if you bought the close that day at 576, look at what the stock has done since, right? And this is a principle that we learn all the time in earnings, is that institutions who have not been positioned in the stock, they look at and they say, wow, Deckers really beat our expectations, and we need to start to get involved in this thing, right? And that's basically what happens. And we've seen this. I'm just using this one as an example, but this type of thing happens over and over and over, especially in names that, haven't done much right now. Names that have already run up, like a CrowdStrike. I don't think you're going to see a move like that after earnings, but I think you have to kind of let it cool off a little bit. This is an example of one that really wasn't doing too much, and then had a surprise earnings, and and of course had to get bought thereafter. So I think that there's plenty of other names. Could we see, more of a move from names like, we started to see some names like solar names, which we saw some call buying and things like Nova and Sunrun. Yeah, you could, but you could see some further upside move in these. But you really, just like I was talking about with Tesla, like planning out your trade, right? It's very important to plan out your trade in this, both your stop and where you're going to take profits in names that are in downtrends. I was sharing this example, and I'll go through this really quickly, but Hershey, right? This is a name that I traded, a few weeks ago, right? Name in a big, long downtrend. Right. And I caught this, right. I said, hey, I'll be in this for a quick trade. I was in it for a couple days and I got out of it, and look at it since, right? Had this bounce, and it's right back to the lows again, right? So, you find that a lot with names that are in downtrends. Now, it's a different story between that and something like, because normally what happens is, you could use that, Stan Weinstein, right? You could use stage analysis, right? This is stage 4. Stage 1 is basically going sideways for a while. And again, this isn't his exact work, but this is me kind of paraphrasing it. Stage 1 is you go sideways for a while, and then stage 2 is you go back up, right? And there's a lot of names that are doing that, right? Look at ST&E, for example. Now you have to zoom out, for example, so here's what I mean. Big long move, stage 4 downtrend, and then look at the sideways. Sometimes these names will go sideways for a long time, right? So stage 1, and now it's trying to come up, and it looks like possible stage 2, right? And you could really kind of look at this name too on the weekly chart. This helps too, but this is so this is why I don't buy names in downtrends, right? Just wait for them to kind of go to other areas of the market and wait for names to kind of do this, because this is the normal of what happens after a name has declined for a while. Again, it's not every single name, but anyway. So let me keep going here. I wanted to go over a few more names with you. SYM. This is one where you really have to have the right position sizing, because it is a fast mover. This name can be down 5% in a blink of an eye. It could be up 5% in a blink of an eye. Watch to see if it holds this 53.90, right? This is also one of those names that had, a big gap up for earnings. What else to cover? I did get out of some of the trades that I was in just for a short time. Palantir, it looked like the momentum was fading, right? This was a name that, if you remember, made this nice move higher in the beginning of last week, right? Then kind of came in, settled in at the 20-day moving average. I bought this yesterday off of the move here, Palantir, right at the beginning of the day yesterday, right at 1940. Again, not a huge winner, right? Just kind of took almost a buck out of this name, but that's it. I don't know. And again, this name is not a name that I have huge high conviction in. So I'm happy to get out of that one for a small gainer and then look for some other opportunities. So you could kind of think about, and that's what I've been doing this month, is, having some trades on where I've got higher conviction, like a Microsoft or, something of that nature where, you feel it's a higher, quality type name. But then I've also had some trades like this where they're just quick trades, like the Tesla and so on and so forth, where I don't have as much confidence in. And then you've got maybe some trades in the middle of that, where you think it's kind of a midterm swing trade. So you could vary what you're doing. But yeah, the main message, if I didn't say it already, is that if you're playing momentum names and you get that momentum that you're looking for, right, don't get super greedy, right? Because I think this morning you had various names up 3 to 5%. And if you're not selling some of that, right, I think you'll, I don't want to say anything negative, but it's just something that you learn to do after a while, is that when you have profits like that, right, you put some in your pocket. Right. When you get a gift like that, like we had this morning, again, you don't have to sell everything, right? This is what I did, and I even started, some positions into the, I got into a little bit of a dash position because it did trigger for me, but I didn't stay with this one, right? I didn't feel confident enough to do it. Because my trigger was breaking of the value area, looking for that next leg higher, 95.50, and it didn't really get back above the value area. So again, I'll try it again tomorrow. It's not that big of a deal. The more that you get comfortable with understanding that not every trade is going to work, I think the better. One other name that I wanted to go over was Tesla, because I did sorry, not Tesla, NVIDIA. It's been a long day. NVIDIA. This one, you're going to find that you've got a little bit of a trigger on the daily chart, but not yet on the 1 hour. So I've been watching this one since it reported earnings. I've been kind of sitting on my hands, being patient. So I did buy this one today, even though I kind of got a little bit fooled because it did not close inside its value area. So I'll set my stop will be basically the low of the week, even though I don't have the active trigger, which would be above 485, and we'll see if it can get there. Again, I give this one a little bit more of a leash than, say, a Palantir or a DoorDash, because I think, NVIDIA is a higher quality name. So even though it didn't close where I wanted it to, I'm keeping this one on, and maybe we'll see some follow through. If not tomorrow, then maybe next week. And if it doesn't, then you get out of it, or I get out of it, and then start again, right? And wait because some of these names will consolidate for a while, right? They may not break down, but they may consolidate for a while. All right, guys. Hope you're having a great month. One more trading day of the month to go. Look forward to it, and guys, have a great evening.